President Trump made news on two key economic fronts today. First, signaling to reporters inside the Oval Office that tariffs on China could be lowered substantially from the current 145% in what would be a massive relief, to say the least, for investors.
Are you going to play hardball with them?
I'm not going to say, no, I'm not going to mention COVID. I'm not going to say, oh, I'm going to play hardball with China. I'm going to play hardball with you, President Xi. No. We're going to be very nice.
Trump softened his stance on those Chinese tariffs as he also sent stock futures somewhere they have not been a lot lately in positive territory. But also, so did what the president said in the Oval Office about Jay Powell's job. Now, President Trump has spent days attacking the chairman of the Federal Reserve, saying that his termination could not come fast enough, and just yesterday calling him a, quote, major loser, and then today saying this.
No, I have no intention of firing him. I would like to see him be a little more active in terms of his idea to lower interest rates. This is a perfect time to lower interest rates. If he doesn't, is it the end? No, it's not, but it would be good timing.
My economic source was the Treasury Secretary under President Clinton and also the Director of the National Economic Council under President Obama. Larry Summers, great to have you here tonight. You heard the president there on Fed Chair Jay Powell. He sounded a lot over the last few days like he wanted him out. There were real questions about this. We saw some White House aides changing their views on it. I wonder what you make of what he had to say tonight.
Look, I'm an economist, not a psychologist. I don't understand why the president says one thing one day and then the opposite the next day. Here's what I know. When the president pursues the distinctive elements of his economic program, more tariffs, more pressure on the Federal Reserve, more challenges to legal institutions, more pressure on the budget deficit. When he pursues his program more aggressively, markets plummet. When he backs off of all of his ideas and returns things to normal, markets rally. That's all one has to know. And markets look forward. And so they're making a judgment that the president's new ideas in economic policy, the tariffs, the Fed bashing, the challenges to rules of law, are very bad ideas that will do much damage to the economy. And markets recognize that, and capital flees the United States when it looks like he's going to act on those ideas. And when it looks like he was just talking, then there's more confidence and people pull back and markets normalize. But it's got to be an unfortunate circumstance where the president not being true to his word, not carrying through on his promises and threats is what markets are desperately hoping for. That's the mark of a country that, in a sense, is not in reasonable control, not seen as being governed in a serious and competent way.
I mean, we saw the markets going up after just some comments that the Treasury Secretary had made behind closed doors today, not even on camera. They were just reported about in terms of the trade war with China. But what he said on China tonight I thought was also really significant, because he called the 145% tariffs that he's put in place here very high. And at one point in the Oval Office, he told reporters, and I'm quoting the president now, it will come down substantially. I do think there's a question to your point there of, does that last, or, you know, does China see that as the damage has been done here?
I can't judge. I don't understand why the Secretary of the Treasury is having meetings in private with large groups of investors to give him the benefit of their thinking. That seems very unfair and seems like the stuff of crony capitalism. I don't know what the president is going to do next. I do, as an economist, have very strong ideas about what's in our country's interest. And the further away we move from the Liberation Day program, the better it will be for the economic prospects of the country, and the more positively markets will react.
In our money lead, we have been talking to small business owners all over the country for weeks now to hear their thoughts on President Trump's wide-reaching tariffs. Some of them are enthusiastic and excited about them. Many are not. My next guest from Nashua, New Hampshire, Scott Anderson, joins us now. His business, 5 Star North, designs and sells a variety of products, and many of them are manufactured in China. Scott, can you tell us more about your business and which products of yours are the most impacted right now?
Jake, thanks for having me on. Our business, my wife and I started this business 30 years ago. We've kept about 20 people employed for all that time. We've designed dozens of products in 7 different brands, everything from laptop security cables on the business side to liquid chalk markers on the consumer side. And yeah, we have almost all of that made in China. So all of them are being impacted. This is a drastic hit for us. We have $250,000 in inventory stuck in China right now. We can't ship it here. We don't have $400,000 to pay the tariffs that Trump wants on those right now. So we've had to freeze all shipments, all orders, all production. And sadly, we've had to let go of most of our people already this year. If these tariffs don't end tomorrow, we're out of business in months.
You've had to let go people? How many people have you had to let go?
Yeah, we had 12 people at the beginning of the year. We're down to 5 employees now. We had 24 6 years ago when the first tariffs went in.
Wow. And you also faced some disruptions during the COVID pandemic, of course, and during Trump's first term with the tariff policy then, as you note. Were you able to prepare in advance at all for this latest disruption?
Well, we started thinking about it over a year ago, trying to figure out options. Can we stock up like we were able to do in COVID to get through that? Can we get a year's worth of inventory? Can we bring manufacturing here now? Unfortunately, Trump's tariffs 6 years ago raised our tariff from 5% to 20%. That's cost us over $1 million in the last 6 years. That's all of our profit. And then some. We're a small business. We can keep people employed, but we don't make a ton of money. So no, neither one of those was an option. And yes, we did look into, is there any government help out there? They've collected $260 billion in these Trump tariffs to bring manufacturing here. But all I could find for help was for microchips and electric cars. There was nothing available for all the small businesses that are funding these tariffs.
So you just lost $1 million, or did you try to pass that on to consumers? What did you do with that? I mean, 5% to 20% is a huge tariff increase. How did you try to make up that difference?
Yeah, unfortunately, we've been trying to pivot, but no, we've basically just lost that money. Now, unfortunately, there's a misconception that all businesses can pass tariffs on to the consumer. For millions of e-commerce businesses like us, we can't do that. I'll give you an example. We sell a lot on Amazon. 62% of what you buy on Amazon is from third-party sellers like us. Over half of those are based in China. Those companies don't have any consequences for lying about the customs value, so they're paying a small fraction of the tariffs that we pay. So we can't raise our prices because they don't have to. So, and there's over a million U.S. companies selling on Amazon right now that are all in the same boat. That's a pretty big collateral damage from this trade war.
Scott Anderson, thank you so much. Appreciate it. So sorry to hear that.